Hi, it's Jules with Jules Reads, and I thought what would be fun today is to talk about the books that my husband has bought recently. I think most of these have been gifts from me, but just talk about some of the books that he is interested in reading. And I'm actually in his library office right now, so I thought it would be fun to film in here, something different to look at. So these are his bookshelves. I do have a bunch of Stephen King over here that are mine, but I have a lot of Stephen King, which is why they're in here, because he had more room than I do. So my husband, whose name is Ben, and I would say his favorite authors are John Steinbeck and Sigurd Olson. So Sigurd Olson writes, I believe, more, it's nonfiction, takes place in northern Minnesota. I believe that's what most of his books are. So those are his favorite authors, I would say, based on what I know of my husband. He's not a huge reader. He likes to read, but he has a lot of hobbies that he tinkers with. So he doesn't read a ton. But books that he's bought recently, he's only started one. So I have 6 or 7 to go over here. So these are recent, what I would say within the last couple of months that he has gotten. So the first one I'm going to talk about, and what I thought would also be fun, is to read the first sentence or first paragraph, because then I will know, is this a book I would be interested in? And the first one I'm interested in because of how much he loved another book by this author. So the book that he got is The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. So he really loved Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. So he loved this book, so I bought him this one. I think this might have been a Christmas present, but I bought him this book just how much he loved this book. So let's read the synopsis a little bit. It says, Kinchna Shaknak, and I have not read any of this prior, and I'm not going to do much editing, so I apologize for any mispronunciations. Kitchna Shotnak owns the Takers Guild, a small fortune for his education as a thief, which includes but is not limited to lockpicking, knife fighting, wall scaling, fall breaking, lie weaving, trap making, plus a few small magics. His debt has driven him to lie in wait by the old forest road, planning to rob the next traveler that comes across his path. So let's read the first sentence or paragraph. Well, let's read the first 3 sentences. I was about to die. Worse, I was about to die with bastards. Not that I was afraid to die, but maybe who you die with is important. Well, that's intriguing. All right, the next book is Atonement by Ian McEwan. And this is, I believe, a Scottish author. I don't think I've read any of these authors before that he has. So the synopsis for this is Ian McEwan's symphonic novel of love and war, childhood and class, guilt and forgiveness combines all the satisfaction of a superb narrative with the provocation we have come to expect from this master of English prose. On a summer day in 1935, 13-year-old Briony Tallis witnesses the flirtation between her older sister Cecilia and Robbie Turner, the son of a servant. But Briony's incomplete grasp of adult motives and a precocious imagination bring about a crime that will change all their lives, a crime whose repercussions atonement follows through the chaos and carnage of World War II and into the close of the 20th century. Oof, that sounds kind of heavy. All right, the first sentence or paragraph is the play, for which Briony had designed the posters, programs, and tickets, constructed the sales booth out of a folding screen, tipped on its side, and lined the collection box in red crepe paper, was written by her in a 2-day tempest of composition, causing her to miss a breakfast and a lunch. That was a complicated sentence for me to read. And then we have Camilla by Joseph Sheridan LaFanu. So this I've had on my own TBR for so long. It is, I believe, what inspired the writings of Dracula. So this was written prior to Dracula. So this was written in the early 1800s, I believe. I'm not sure. 1871. It says Carmilla was first published in the dark blue in 1871. So, synopsis. Oh, and I love it when they have the paperback, but it has the flap. So, isolated in a remote mansion in a central European forest, Laura longs for companionship until a carriage accident brings another young woman into her life, the secretive and sometimes erratic Carmilla. As Carmilla's actions become more puzzling and volatile, Laura develops bizarre symptoms, and as her health goes into decline, Laura and her father discover something monstrous. Ooh, I think I would like this one. You Are Mine, Obsession Odylic? O-D-Y-L-I-C? No, I'm sorry, Mom. Influences and Le Fanu's Carmilla. When Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu's magnum opus Carmilla was first published... Oh, this is not the... Doing real well here. This is just the talking about the book. Okay. And I'm not... Okay, chapter 1. An Early Fright. Oh, it says in Styria, which is there's a footnote, a state in the southeast of Austria. We, though by no means magnificent people, inhabit a manor house. A small income in that part of the world goes a great way. 800 or 900 a year does wonders. Oh, can you imagine? But this does sound like something I would read, even though I have not read Dracula. It's always been on my TBR for ages and ages. Okay, this I know I heard about from another booktuber as well as another one, which I think it's supposedly fun. I get lots of ideas from him for my husband. So this is Gilead by Marilynne Robinson. And the synopsis for this one is... kind of a long one, so I might cut it off a little bit, but winner of the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Critics Circle Award, Gilead is the second novel by Marilynne Robinson, one of our finest writers. It is a hymn of praise and lamentation to the God-haunted existence that its narrator loves passionately, and from which he will soon part. In 1956, toward the end of his life, the Reverend John Ames begins a letter to his young son, an account of himself and his forebears. Ames is the son of an Iowa preacher and the grandson of a minister who, as a young man in Maine, saw a vision of Christ bound in chains and went west to Kansas to fight for abolition. He preached men into the Civil War, then at age 50 became a chaplain in the Union Army, later losing his right eye in battle. Reverend Ames writes about the tension between his father, an ardent pacifist, and his grandfather, whose pistol and bloody shirts concealed in an army blanket may be relics from the fight between the abolitionists and those settlers who wanted to vote Kansas into the Union as a slave state. He tells a story of the sacred bonds between fathers and sons, bonds that have been tested in his tender but strained relationship with his namesake, John Ames Boughton, and his best friend's wayward son. This sounds amazing. I just got chills reading that little bit. So I would probably like to read this one. So the first sentence or paragraph or couple sentences. I told you last night that I might be gone. I told you last night that I might be gone sometime, and you said, where? And I said, to be with the good Lord. And you said, why? And I said, because I'm old. And you said, I don't think you're old. I kind of like that. That's just one sentence. There's no quotations. It's just kind of one sentence. All right, the next book is, I believe also I got the recommendation from the supposedly fun BookTube channel, and it is Washington Black by Essie Udogan. I don't know if I mispronounced that. So the synopsis is 11-year-old George Washington Black, or Wash, a field slave on a Barbados sugar plantation, is initially terrified when he is chosen to be the manservant of his master's brother. To his surprise, however, the eccentric Christopher Wilde turns out to be a naturalist, explorer, inventor, and abolitionist. Soon Wash is initiated into a world where two people, separated by an impossible divide, can begin to see each other as human. But when a man is killed and a bounty is placed on Wash's head, they must abandon everything and flee. Spanning the Caribbean to the frozen far north, London to Morocco, Washington Black is a story of self-invention and betrayal, of love and redemption, and of a world destroyed and made whole again. And to the first sentence. It does say Faith plantation in the Barbados in 1830. I might have been 10 years old. I cannot say for certain when my first master died. That sounds like an epic novel. This next one, and a fun one, and this is our last one, is one that I got my husband for Christmas, and it is As You Wish, The Inconceivable Tales from the Making of the Princess Bride, with Joe Layden, and it's forwarded by, it's written by Carrie Eels, I cannot ever say that name, with Joe Layden and forward by Rob Reiner. So one of my husband's favorite movies, I think it's his second favorite, I think his first is The Big Lebowski, is The Princess Bride. So this is from celebrated actor Carrie Eels, who played the iconic role of Wesley in The Princess Bride, comes a behind-the-scenes look at the making of the family favorite and cult classic film, filled with never-before-told stories, exclusive photographs, and interviews with co-stars Robin Wright, Wallace Shawn, Billy Crystal, Christopher Guest, and Mandy Patinkin, as well as author and screenwriter William Goldman, producer Norman Lear, and director Rob Reiner. In As You Wish, Eels has created an enchanting experience for new and old fans of The Princess Bride, complete with plenty of set secrets and backstage stories. Ooh, there's photos. Ooh. Fun. All right. Meeting Rob. The note simply read, "Important." It was a message from my agent, Harriet Robinson, that had been slipped under my door by a bellhop at the Hotel Kempinski where I was staying. That should be really fun. I do like the movie. I don't love it as much as my husband, but that should be really fun for him to read. So there you go. Those are the 6 books that he's gotten recently. He's not a big book buyer like I am. I'm a book collector as well as a book reader, but these are the fun ones that he's gotten recently. So I thought I would show those off to you if you get any ideas for something you might be interested in. So there you go. All right, thanks for watching.